Hi, Deacon Ed McCormick here at St. John the Baptist Catholic Community on the first Sunday of Advent. And I'm going to offer a brief series on Advent to kind of jumpstart your own approach to the season. I know that for students, their semesters are ending. For teachers and professors, they're trying to get out of the semester. For many people, this is a busy time of year with office parties and shopping and getting ready for Christmas. And so it's hard for us to really take seriously the Advent season. It can kind of just disappear because it's only 4 weeks long. So I want to offer this short series to help you kind of focus and take advantage of this brief but powerful season. And in today's video, I want to begin by setting up the context within which we approach Advent this year. And of course, that context has to include the horrific war in Ukraine, the war between Israel and Gaza, and the devastating attacks by Hamas on Israelis, and the horrific bombing and destruction of much of Gaza and over 12,000 Palestinian lives. So that's part of our context. Another part of our context is the violence in our cities and the mass shootings that happen around our country, and our obsession, dare I say, almost idol worship of weapons, guns, AK-47s. Another feature of the Advent season is how fast-paced our life is, how busy it is, how full of activity it is, and how little chance we get to stop and pause and contemplate. Another feature of the Advent and Christmas season this year, and for many people every year, there are those of us who enter the Advent and Christmas season having lost a loved one. And although the rhetoric around the season is one of celebration and joy and family and friends, for many people, it also involves a reminder that someone has died and they are absent from their lives. That too is a feature of the Advent season. Now, I want to return to our context, context filled with war around the planet, and violence in our country. Also, another feature of our context is the fact that our former president is indicted on 91 counts. These are all features of our context. And I want to say something about our current situation. There is a sense in which we can feel powerless to stop the war in Ukraine, to bring about some kind of peaceful solution in the Middle East. We can feel powerless against these mass shootings that can happen anywhere, even in a quiet place like Maine. And this sense of powerlessness is crucial to face, because I think we have been told by our modern society and modern culture that if you get enough education, if you get the right technology, if you just have a democracy, that this will solve all of our problems. And I think we're getting to a point in world history where we realize that the problems the world deals with cannot simply be solved by technology. In fact, technology is often the problem, or can be co-opted into part of the problem. Just because you have a democracy doesn't mean it will last. And even if you do have a democracy, it doesn't solve all our problems, nor does education. Some of the most highly educated people do horrible things. And so I have two images for our context this year as we think about Advent. One is these crumbling concrete apartment buildings in Gaza that have been hit by these bombs. The other is the darkness that takes over at night in a place like Gaza when there's no power. And I think our sense of powerlessness against so many of the problems and forces in our world is captured by that darkness and by these crumbling buildings. And that takes me to Advent. The word Advent is an English word, English version of the Latin Adventus, which translates the Greek parousia. And the word Adventus means to come or to arrive. So the season of Advent, we are celebrating the coming, the arrival of God through Christ and the Spirit into our world, because we believe that it is only through the arrival of that which is outside of our world, through the arrival of that which is greater than our violence and our corruption and our greed and the injustice and our own rage and violence, only through the arrival of something outside of our world and other than those forces that can save us. And so Advent is the season in which we remember God has already come through Christ and the Spirit and continues to come and will one day arrive in the fullness of all things. And so I want to conclude with a comment that I'm picking up from today's gospel, where Jesus is telling his disciples and us that the posture we must take during Advent, even though it's dark in our world, even though there are really dangerous destructive forces that are causing the destructions of buildings and cities and nations, that we must watch. We must become watchful for the ways that Christ continues to come into our lives. They're often subtle and hidden. They will often come in through our relationships, in and through the Eucharist, in and through our Christian community, in and through insights we get from God's Word. And so, my friends, as we enter into this Advent season, despite our context, Jesus calls us to watch and to notice the ways that the Lord is coming into your life through all kinds of people, all kinds of situations, through the Word, through the sacrament, through the Christian community, through the ways the Lord is going to ask you to touch other people's lives. I'll see you in the next video.